Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Paghairagale, Nihao, Chunashumme, Washmale. Ohio Gonzaimas. Guten Morgen. Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal. Hale Shuman Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, Swabi, Abhalli Kareaya. Hosh Galdin, Anayo Sayo, Huyamora, Chivato, Chihal, Yod Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to each and everybody who's actually tuned into PTV World and watching what this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But having said that, hello Hajra, Assalamu Alaikum, kaisi hain aap?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me, Shahzad. So I think this is a very fine Thursday morning in Islamabad, and I think temperature is 2 to 3 degrees higher because certainly I was waving this paper because I was feeling very sweaty today, and this certainly scares us because obviously February was not used to be like that. February was very cold back in our old days, but now it's getting very sort of spring season, and in April then we will have the season like that of June. So this is the climate change corollary that is happening in the entire globe. But having said so, so yesterday Shahzad was talking to me behind the camera and he said that I might not come because I have a wedding to attend to, and certainly in Pakistani cultures weddings are a very festive culture, very festive event to attend to, but obviously they have their own fatigue with them because there's a lot of dancing, there's a lot of dance practices, and certainly Mehndi is one that function that we all aspire and look to it because there's a lot of extra festivity in that function. So you wanted to share some thoughts on that.
So imagine, I think that over here in Pakistan, whenever the weather turns good, either the nation starts to play cricket or either they start to get married. I think that's how it is, So
but now the day of weather is also confusing us because we really don't know, how weather will turn up next day, right?
Exactly, that's how it is. And imagine that, over here, this is a pattern, this is a trend that, for a mehndi, you actually have to wear a shalwar kameez or a waistcoat. So I actually had to keep another extra jacket. But having said that, since you're wearing Peshawari chappals and then, all of a sudden your auntie or your uncle will come and pull you into, or onto the dance floor as well, that Aja Putter, Pagra Pai and all of that. But with Peshawari chappals, I think my feet still hurt. But having said that, there's another interesting bit to it. So imagine, today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to share how wonderful you feel as a kid, when your parents actually kind of give you a very positive feedback about how good of a child you are to them. I think that's wonderful, and it is for the very first time that I have come across such an occasion that today, I was having my breakfast with my mother. We usually sit down, she does her dum on me every single morning. So we are sitting and she's smiling, and I'm like, Ammi, why are you smiling? What happened? And she was like that I'm really happy. And I was like, why are you happy? She was like that, that everybody who actually met me last night on the mehndi, from the girls' side, because we were the boys' side as well, everybody kept on asking me, Ke aap Shahzad ki ammi hai? And I felt so great. And I was like, so then are you proud of me? And then Ammi said, obviously, we are proud of you and whatnot. And I was so happy. And, I'm actually going to request all of those parents who are out there that, just because that we at times are so shy to say it to our children that, you're doing great in life, you're good, give them a good hug or probably a pat on the back. It will actually boost their morale. It will push them to do a lot more better than what they are doing as of now. So for all of those parents who are out there today, your mission is to make sure that you sit down with your kids and tell them that how much you love them and how much you're proud of them, because it actually gave me that wonderful feeling. I think I still have it in me. Thank you, Ammi, for saying that. I think I'm still waiting on my Abu to say such a word as well. I don't know whether he will or he will not. All right. But having said that, coming back to the weather, do you think that it's still confusing? Because I think that it's warm now.
Yeah, so do you remember in the first few days of the February, I think first, second or third, it was very hot, and then there was suddenly a rain and the entire weather changed, and then there was this very cold, smoggy or foggy sort of a weather because obviously we're coming early in the morning in the office and the commute is very long. So we certainly wanted to, pack our winter clothes from a wardrobe and put back the summer or spring clothes into it, but then, we stopped and we felt that, okay, weather is very confusing nowadays. So moving on to our top stories, which is about the Finance Supplementary Bill 2023 has been introduced in the National Assembly session. Finance Minister Ishaq Dar presented the bill in this session, and obviously this bill was the need of the hour because there are certain conditionalities to what IMF has demanded of us, and obviously we hope and pray that things will become better in the days to come.
Inshallah, and that's exactly what we want. But having said that, moving on, where, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether it's a good news for the Pakistanis or not, because just yesterday, on my way back, I was at the petrol station. It was quite difficult for me kind of figure out where I'm going to get fuel from as well. But having said that, the federal government increased the price of petrol by rupees 22.20 and high-speed diesel by rupees 17.20. The prices of kerosene and light diesel oil were also increased by rupees 12.90 and rupees 9.68 respectively. The new price of petrol is rupees 272 per litre, while high-speed diesel will cost rupees 280 per litre. Kerosene will be available at rupees 202.73, whereas LDO will be sold at rupees 196.68 per litre. Well, difficult times for Pakistan, but obviously in order to kind of make sure that our economy is back on track, ladies and gentlemen, these are a few stringent measures that the federal government has to undertake to make sure that our economy is back on track as well. Prime Minister Mia Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif Sahab led government is actually working day in day out to make sure that that they take or bring Pakistan out of such an economical crisis. But having said that, on the other hand, for Pakistanis, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, when the weather turns good, either we're playing cricket or either we're getting married. So since it happens to be the HBL PSL Season 8 Fiesta, which is underway, just yesterday it was Multan Sultans versus Quetta Gladiators in Multan. And having said that, Quetta Gladiators unfortunately looked out of place because of Ehsanullah's pace. To be very honest, couldn't really score quite a lot. And, for Multan Sultan, it wasn't really a very difficult task. Just at the loss of 1 wicket, they were able to kind of seal their victory, their first victory of PSL. Even though that, in the previous PSL seasons, Multan Sultan never lost in Multan, because that happens to be their home ground. But unfortunately, in the first and the opening match, they lost their first match. And then just yesterday, they won their first match as well, and that too against Quetta Gladiators. I think Sarfaraz couldn't really manage Ehsanullah's pace, and then for all of those batters who actually came in, because Ehsanullah got 5 wickets, and then what I really was not able to understand was that if you have roped in Mohammad Hafiz, why didn't you use him somewhere in the middle order? Why do you think that Mohammad Hafiz had to come at number 8? I think these are the questions, and these questions will be answered today, inshallah, on PTV Sports at 4 p.m.
So having said that, I think that was a wonderful analysis, and I think one thing that I can add to this entire commentary was that obviously whenever PSL or such kind of things are happening, it is also a good boost to the local economy, because there are local vendors, whose business is going up, and there's a local hospitality business that is also profiting from such kind of events, right, Shahzad?
And in addition to that, Haja, there's one more thing which I would want to mention over here, because imagine that Najam Sethi Saab actually tweeted on his Twitter account and said that a lot of VIPs are asking for, a lot of free tickets. And even though that I know that they can afford the tickets, but they would still want free tickets so that, that VIP protocol things goes on. And I think I'm going to just request humbly to each and every one of you, why cannot you be a part of this economic cycle? I think everybody needs to come out and contribute. You've seen such a magnificent opening ceremony. Not just that, I have letters and I have evidence where, unfortunately, the Lordship has actually been writing letters to the PCB administration that they want free passes for PSL. I think for all of those judges who are out there who want to go and attend, and their families, you can afford it. Why do you actually want to kind of write a letter, to the PCB management committee and be like, hey, what, we need these passes? Please don't do that. I think everybody needs to come together, because PSL, when we talk about it, happens to be one of the leading leagues all over the world. And what you need to do is you need to come out there and be supportive and make sure that you promote it in the rightful manner.
Okay, so
humble request.
Wonderfully said that, and I think we need to point out this elitism. So, Shahzad, I'm going to tell a tale because I read it just recently, and why I'm telling this, because
I like tales. Come on.
So, because this is linked to our topic too.
Yeah.
So, I read somewhere that they have personified 2 concepts, abstract concepts. One is truth and one is lie. So, truth and lie, they were walking together, and a lie said that today is a very nice day, and the truth looked at the lie and said, okay. So, they went to a well, and the lie said that the water of this well is very sweet. Why don't we take a dip in it, right?
Yeah.
So, truth was a bit apprehensive about the lie. So, what happened was that lie said, okay, so I will go into the well first, and then you can come back. So, lie went down into the well and started enjoying. So, truth also removed the clothes and went into the well. So, what happened was, after some time, lie very deceptively came out of the well, put back the truth's clothes, and ran away to a village nearby, right? and the truth was very apprehensive, and truth was very perplexed as to what has happened. So what truth did was that truth also came out of the well, and obviously it was a naked truth. So it ran to the village, and when it went to the village, and we could see that the lie was parading the truth's clothes and walking everywhere in the village. But and when people saw that naked truth, they were horrified, and they started using that naked truth. So naked truth felt so ashamed that it went back into the well, and it never came out again. And from that time onward, the lie couch in the truth's clothes is usually parading in the villages. And why I told this entire tale is because nowadays, because of the social media, there's so much misinformation, there's so much disinformation, there's so much fake news, there's so much content out there that we are certainly perplexed as to what is the nature of that, and how we can make sure that our youth are attuned and accustomed, and they are well guided so that they take that information positively. So to deliberate on that, pontificate on that, we are very glad that we have been joined by Asif Rasool, who happens to be Assistant Professor in Namal, and he's also an analyst. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Sir, once again, it's wonderful to have you over here. You know, every time you are here, I always mention that you've been one of those amazing professors I've had the opportunity to learn from. Alhamdulillah, you've always been supportive of whatever, you know, you get at your disposal in a university classroom as well, and make sure that you turn them around and, you know, give them that newer vision as well. But having said that, sir, precisely today we're focusing on engaging youth in the era of digitalization, and the prime focus should be that, you know, most of the time the debate is around that, you know, that we use internet for the sole purpose of entertaining ourselves, watching memes, forwarding them, you know, WhatsApp, all of that. I don't think that, you know, we are really very productive with it. But how do you think that from there onwards we can move on towards independent learning, having or instilling that habit, okay, yaar, we need to use it for our better? How can we do that?
Thank you very much. I mean, you just started it in the right direction. Now we have just started off with a new semester. So I've got 4 to 5 classes. So last year I conducted a research in which I asked the youngster that I'm not going to judge you at all. Simply just tell me 3 things. Number 1, how much time do you consume on technology, internet and all that? Second, what's the main purpose? Entertainment. Write down the percentage. Then learning purpose. So to my utter surprise, like most of the time schedule was from 4 to 7, 8 hours. Okay. This was the normal consumption time of the different graduates. And entertainment purpose, it was 98%. And that's really alarming. So if I just talk about my 3 to 4 classes, 120-30 students, all youngsters, all studying at university, just 4 of them, they were on proper track. They were listening to something, or they were just watching very serious content, and they were just building themselves. They were developing themselves. Yep. They were working on their skill. But that's the main concern. Most of the youngsters, they do not have proper guidelines, and this is how ultimately they're going to suffer.
And sir, thank you very much for saying that, and we certainly wanted to speak about it as well, because, you know, I've been mentioning over here that, you know, how my 9-year-old daughter is most of the time, you know, using YouTube. And just yesterday, because, you know, while we were on our way to my cousin's Mehndi, you know, so I was like, hey, Shabano, how are you? And she was like, I'm bored, okay? And I was like, okay, why are you bored? She was like, you know, I don't have anything to do, while we were in the car. I was like, okay, you know, let's kind of have a sketch of what you want to paint next. And she was like, you know, I want to make a galaxy and the planet Earth, and I'll use these colors and whatnot. So I was like, do you know how many galaxies are out there? And all of a sudden she replied, there's one. I was like, no, there are billions of galaxies out there. And she was like, I never knew about that. And I was like, you know, just because you've been on YouTube and, you know, you certainly never had the time of using it for your betterment or for learning, that's what's going to happen. But having said that, sir, I think that what we really need to instill in our, you know, youngsters is that this habit of learning by themselves. For example, you know, Haja over here, you know, she's an avid reader. She would read books, and, you know, every time she would be on the show, you know, I would feel as if I need to read more. And, you know, that's exactly how I got onto my track. You know, I started reading books, made sure that, you know, I could contribute to the conversation when we are talking about books as well.
That's a wonderful compliment.
You know, it is. And, you know, that's how it is. You know, people really need to work on themselves. So having said that, how do you think that these universities, schools and colleges can actually help those youngsters instilling that habit of learning by themselves? Because first, the schools have been pushing us to read and learn all of those books, which is why we actually stay away from books quite a lot of the time, you know, while we are in the school as well. When we go to the university, there are so many projects and presentations that we certainly do not get time to invest in ourselves. How do we do that?
Okay, ji. One, there's a huge and great challenge. Currently, it's staring us in the face, and that is these latest softwares, the effective use of AI. If you ask any question, if we give any assignment to our students, they directly go to
AI.
the digitalization. They just get whatever the question you're going to ask, that's going to. So they are not going to put their effort. Though this is one challenge. Second is, Shehzad, you have rightly pointed out that one issue which your daughter, like you asked a question and then you came across it. Most of the teenagers, they are not into a real kind of work. Where there's a pain just to groom yourself, to develop yourself. For example, if Hajra is spending a lot of time to read a lot, if you are preparing yourself thoroughly from every angle and you are working, mashallah, very nicely in this industry, you spend a hell of time. You are not there to just watch reels of 1 minute or 2 minutes. If you could convince me right now that I just spend like 2 or 3 or half an hour and I am just, I've got a lot of knowledge and all that. So this is the second thing. Third one is, unfortunately, kids are going to school, teenagers are going to colleges and school, and then we have got university students. There is one problem. All of them, they are using their university, their institutes are not engaging them. So we have got to start off from school level, where teachers are going to guide them that, look, this is the nice content, so that they should develop this very good habit that, okay, now, so that when they come after from, coming from school to colleges, now they are on their track. So when they listen to us, they are going to go visit different websites, they are going to prepare themselves, and ultimately they are going to engage.
True.
And certainly that is a dilemma. Thank you so much, Shehzad, for pointing that out, because I don't find that we have a very robust reading culture here in Pakistan. And if you go abroad, especially on the metros or the trams or the tubes, you would find that a lot of people are actually reading while they're traveling, because they have a lot of time when they are commuting. So having said so, because you're a professor of mass communication and communication studies, and certainly internet was hailed as a big democratic space because it has democratized the power to the masses, and it will have that, rational, critical debates over there. But nowadays, we find that the rational debates are being replaced by very emotional one, where people have constructed their own realities, the alternative realities, right?
True.
And that is very confusing concept in the first place. So how do we make sure that our youth are protected from such kind of confusing concepts?
Why you are going to prick us? Let us enjoy our slumber. I am one of them who is also suffering from the same echo chamber. I have got specific media people. I want to listen that truth which appeals to me, which is very sweet to me. So that is very challenging. That's very, but we are very lucky to have people who are self-taught and they've got their own YouTube channel. Some of the guys, I don't want to mention their names here, they have just left mainstream media because they knew that, well, it's not a popular culture, because there are obviously SOPs, you have got to properly follow them. If you deviate them, you have got to face the music, and that music is not very nice. That is always very jarring one.
True.
So now we have got the very popular trend all over the world, that's of podcast. So we have got many people here as well in Pakistan, and they are producing a very nice, serious content, which is really going to help people, which is going to ask these very challenging questions, and which is really going to challenge this current status quo.
Right.
Ooh, I mean, we have got a lot many guys around us who are there and they say that, well, this is the best route, buy it and stay with me.
And let's talk about, and I think let's poke the elephant in the room, which is about the lot of conspiracy theories on the internet. And I think that is also creating a lot of mental illnesses, right? Because people are so much consuming that content, and that is creating so much depression and anxiety out there. For example, that red pill movement, that there is another reality out there, or then there is another order out there, which is actually making sure that you are enslaved to their particular idea and stuff like that, right? And I think too much access to information is also creating this chaos, this confusion that is prevalent on the internet, on the social media, on the digitalization. How to protect yourself from such sort of mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, and I think internet is the one root cause of
Exactly. So that's why, like WHO has just told that 21st century's biggest issue and problem is mental health. Why? Because, what these big tech CEOs, guys in Silicon Valleys, what they have done, they've got like 100 years psychological researches. They've got like a huge data, $1 trillion industry, and they have just, blended it all, and now they know it. That if Shahzad or you have got to, or I've got to watch a video on YouTube, so they will say, come on, don't stop there, we'll just bring you another one. And they fully track you. Now you are going to, one way or the other way, you have got to become a victim of that. So we have got like very wise people, but problem is nobody's going to listen to them. For example, we have got Harvard researchers. Okay, for example, there is this lady, Dr. Shimi Kang. Okay. I would very strongly recommend Shimi Kang, A Tech Diet. She has written this book, and if you say, I'll share it with you as well. So it's available in PDF form as well. So she has provided us with the proper format. For example, you must have seen, like all of us, right now I've got this mobile. So how many of, like when people use it, now this is the normal posture. Yeah. We are in that crouch form. So if you just like, if people are there, they carry it on with the same manner, ultimately it's going to affect them. Second, when you utilize it too much, it's a kind of junk food, like watching too many reels and many other form, like short form. It's ultimately how much dopamine. For example, Shahzad got early in the morning, there was one very beautiful comment from his mother, and now he's enjoying the whole day. The one comment, he's going to enjoy the whole day. But what about the guys who are going to watch the reel for the whole day? Dopamine after every, you are going to get like sugary injection, but for how long you are going to survive that? Ultimately, you are going to get affected by it.
And ultimately, you know, your body might not even produce that, or your brain might not even produce that dopamine or that adrenaline rush which you might get, you know, after watching all of these videos. But having said that, sir, I think at the same time, we certainly are responsible to draw the same picture. Likewise, you know, on the opposite end, what we see is that Pakistan happens to be the 4th largest freelancers industry. I mean, it's not that everybody is actually using it for the entertainment purposes, but a lot of people are using it for creative creation, content creation purposes as well, making sure that they're going to spread a lot of awareness. Just now, alhamdulillah, because I'm planning to go somewhere abroad, I've planned that, you know, I'm going to open up my own YouTube channel where I would want to do something for Pakistan. And ultimately, I've seen that difference. You know, you see this flag which I wear, alhamdulillah, I always make sure to wear it. Now I see a lot of other people wearing it too. You know, that's how you bring in that positive change. Not every time you have to say something. But what I believe is that, you know, to instill that habit of working on yourself in the first place, because we have never been taught that. And unfortunately, now I realize that, yeah, okay, you know, if I would have known this before, I would have worked harder on myself. Now, you know, obviously 5 years later down the line, now I know, okay, I have to work harder on myself, and then eventually whatever I'm going to do will actually come out with a finesse because I've worked enough on myself in the first place. True. How do we tell them that, hey, you know, Putter, Bacho, you know, you really need to kind of focus on yourselves, make sure that you have a better personality, you're more learned, you know, you're open to newer ideas, you're not getting into unnecessary arguments, you're not wasting time. How do we do that? How do we instill that habit? Or do you think that the schools need to play a role in it?
Okay, some of the suggestions which Shimi Kang has given in her book, number one is that there should be a downtime. For example, you're not going to stay there 24/7, all the time you're available. Obviously. So, especially on weekends, could you turn it off? Could you get away with that? This one. Second, coming to this question, for example, when youngsters come to us, and I always ask them that if you are just spending like this much time only for entertainment purposes, what about your personality? Are you going to get out of it? Are you going to write it? How you are going to relate it in your CV?
And so meanwhile, very sorry, but meanwhile we're watching all of these videos, all of those people are making dollars and they are making more videos. You know, so imagine that they are making sure that, you know, they are going to be more successful in life. And having said that, I would want you to continue with your answer as well. Having said that, I believe that to be successful, you really need to forget whether what time you have to sleep, what time you have to eat, you know, what time you need to relax. I think everybody needs to forget about it in order to be successful. Do you agree to this?
Yes, I fully agree, because like people in advanced countries where they got this technology before us, they went for a full dive into it, and now they have started realizing that now we have got to use it consciously. We have got to set rules and regulation. I think we just jumped into it. And now we have started thinking very seriously that we have got to prepare SOPs to take care of it so that it should not affect us. Secondly, we have got to utilize it in a proper way. So we have got to, for example, you have rightly pointed out that I'm going to start, if Hajra is going to start, you know, people like you, if you are going to start up with this channel, you are going to produce a very serious kind of content which is really going to help people polish themselves. Unfortunately, people who are enjoying their, I mean, they do not prepare a lot and they are just coming up with these like a very substandard kind of thing just to make people happy, so people are not going to.
Exactly.
So we are going to, like, when it comes to universities, for example, we have got the concept of like e-businesses inside the universities. So if we engage youngsters that, okay, now develop your skill. No, I fully agree. People who are already there, okay, those who are earning, they know it that there's a huge challenge. They've got to reshape them. Constant reshaping is required in that industry. But people who are just utilizing it negatively, it is going to ultimately affect them. It's going to play havoc in their life.
And I think, Shahzad, the main culprit here is also social media in terms of how damaged our attention span is, right? So I do remember when I was growing up and as a student, so I told this to my younger sister that I'm really glad that I graduated, not because I was a weak student or something like that, but because I find it so difficult to read the entire page, considering the fact that I used to be a very avid book reader. And that is because 1 minute video reels, there's such a short content on there. This is a very pictorial representation of our thoughts on the social media, which has created this culture that has damaged attention span. And like what our birthday guest was alluding to it, that it is not just destroying our attention span, but also our posture, our physical health in that sense, right? So having said that, thank you so much for coming to our show. Thank you for this cross-pollination of the ideas.
Yeah, and you know, just towards the end, there's one small thing which I would love to mention over here, and that is that, you know, in an era where Elon Musk is saying that, you know, we will be implanting microchips in your brain. I mean, do you think that, you know, we will still need to, you know, read or learn or do something? Because then imagine that everybody is going to be smart on an equal level. I mean, if that's how the world's going to be.
This is what he's predicting, but I do feel that people are reverting back from the technology, and then there is this resistance toward this technology, because obviously we can feel the negative effects of that.
True.
Because Meta's AI, that thing that people didn't take interest in that, even though the AI, they were offering money for that. So
yeah, let me complete it. So, you know, so I would want to go back in time where just a few days ago, you know, we had this power cut, you know, all across the country.
Yes.
And you know how we sat down with our parents and the entire family, and you know, kind of cherished that moment that, hey, you know what, these days we certainly do not do that. So I think it is a shared responsibility, number one. But having said that, I think it totally needs to come from within. You know, for all of those people who want to invest their time on themselves in the first place will be the people who in days to come will be the leaders, who in days to come will be successful, who in days to come will be looked at, you know, that, okay, you know, this really needs to be the epitome of success, and that's how everybody needs to be. And for that, people have dedicated their entire lives of learning. I think for everybody who's out there, please make sure that you become yourself an independent learner. Learn, unlearn, learn, and that's the process and that's the procedure of life, because we are not here forever. You know, we're going to go back. So please make sure while you are here that you stay. Make sure that you're going to teach other people, make them learn about newer things, and please make sure that you contribute towards the well-being of the people. With that, we're heading out towards a short break, but once you guys will come back, since we have discussed about how universities have these local e-businesses and how they're making sure that they're going to instill that habit, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about how schooling really needs to be the other way around. Do you think that, you know, because most of the time we talk about education reforms, I think what we really need to talk about is education restructuring. How do we do that? That's something we will be talking about right after a short break. Don't go anywhere. But having said that, one small thing, very sorry, Miss Producer, and that is that, you know, I'm glad that now we have people, because imagine that our morning show, we do not do shadiyan. You know, we make sure that
I'm
we're
really
not
proud
going to,
of that.
yeah, we're not going to make fun of anybody. We make sure that, you know, we do not talk about, you know, if somebody is talking about Formula 1 car, we do not say that that's a Formula, or when the World Cup was won. You know, unfortunately, that shouldn't have happened in the first place. But imagine that who we are learning from. I think people need to realize at the same time. But where I said that, you know, I'm glad that we've been doing this the right way, alhamdulillah, is because that out of the top 10 Urdu morning shows, ladies and gentlemen, our morning show came on number 3, alhamdulillah, which means that this kind of conversation is being consumed by a lot of well-learned people out there. And I'm glad and I'm happy and I'm thankful to Allah Almighty. We're heading out towards a short break with a little excitement. When we come back, let's talk about education restructuring. Good morning.
Welcome back, and certainly Shehzad alluded to what we are going to talk about in this segment. Obviously, it's education, and I think it's such a pertinent topic to talk about it. And I think the more we talk about it, the more issues we can cover about it. And certainly, Shehzad, we have seen that today's world, there's so much fake news, misinformation, disinformation, which we were alluded to in an earlier segment, that there's a dire need for the critical thinking in our pedagogy, especially in the education. And I think our education system needs to be rethink or redesigned in a way that incorporates the element of that critical thinking. So rote learning, memorization, maybe it has some certain benefits to it, but I don't think so that it is exactly the demand of this digitalization of this 21st century, and our students needs to be made well aware of and need to be kept abreast with what is going on around the world.
So you know, there's this report by, as well, where, and they say that, we're already 60 years back in time,
Oh
so
God.
imagine that, where the modern education is, we are certainly 60 years far behind from there. And we most of the time speak about education reforms, but that's not how it's going to work. I think it really needs to come out with the term of restructuring. How do we do that? That's something. But first up, where I'm saying that we do not need reforms, we need restructuring. Whether am I correct with that? I think that's something with which we would love to kind of open this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have been joined by an educationist over here who happens to be Ms. Zarina Faraz. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
I'm exceptionally good, and I'm really loving the energy that you have, and I'll try my best to keep the pace with
Inshallah.
when it
And
comes
thank
to
you
the
so
energy
much
level.
for being exceptionally good as well, and may Allah keep us all like that. But having said that, so do we need educational reform or do we need restructuring?
No, not reform. It's the time to redesign, rethink and reconstruct, because reform always does not work, and reform is not always the remedy. When to certain extent reforms were okay and we have been practicing them, but now it's the time that all of the pillars of education system are shaking, they have gone hollow. They are not producing the data, they are not ensuring the success of everyone. So when a few of the students are successful, it doesn't mean that we are producing the successful learners.
Right.
So it's the time where we need to ensure the success for everyone.
Right. So, Ms. Zarina, let's talk about the pedagogy, especially in the schools, because we say that we see that there is a dominant or I think conservative pedagogy going on in the school, where the teacher is standing in the center and she is the obviously attention of the entire class, and whatever she is saying, students have to accept that. Rather, students, I do feel that they are deprived of this particular thought, that they can't question teacher because it's not respectful, and I think that is also in our culture in that sense that needs to be redesigned in that way, because the demands of 21st centuries are very different. So how do you suggest that we need to redesign our pedagogy, especially in the schools?
Well, when it comes to redesigning, it has lots and lots of elements, and when we dig deep into every element, we will come up with more data and more results. So what you were talking about, that is the classroom instruction model. True. So the world has switched to the student-centered learning environment. And I'm sorry to say, like even in Islamabad model colleges, we failed to present the 21st century classroom, and it's not a big deal, it's not a rocket science. You have to make certain changes, like you start with the layout of the classroom. If you just enter the classrooms now in Islamabad model schools or whatever the schools, you just stay on the door of the classroom, and you can simply judge that this is not a 21st century classroom, because you will find soldier-like discipline, you will find soldier-like no collaboration tables, nothing. So
That's how it's going to be.
So please continue. And having said so, Shehzad, because we had this conversation a lot of times on our program, where we talk about inclusivity, where we talk about diversity, and especially every child has its own sets of unique needs. And you always mentioned that how you thrive when you came to university, because you felt that you were encouraged there, you would listen more to there. And sometimes as a student, especially when we are in the school or college, we don't feel our voice are heard in that way, because whatever teacher is saying, you have to abide by to it. And if you try to question that, then you are deemed as disrespectful, which I mentioned.
You've been taken out like this.
Yes.
Bye Raja, bye
And
Raja.
then there's, yes, corporal punishment and capital
Yeah.
punishment that are also very prevalent in a lot of cultures. So let's talk about the inclusivity and diversity and the unique needs of every student out there. Do you think that we are in that stage where we can actually have this very wholesome sort of a curriculum where we can identify what are the needs of the students, right? If some student is falling behind, what is his exact needs? Well, what needs to be done in this regard?
Well, when you are talking about the uniqueness of the child, then we have to identify the multiple intelligences. Every student has his own strength deep inside. Every child is the intelligent one, is the unique one, is the blessed one. But the thing is, we as teachers, we fail in spotting the strengths of the idea, because we are entering the classroom with one single lesson plan. We have the same content, we have
That's
the same board, like we are making the students complete the notes in the copies. When we are not engaging the students in different activities, how we are going to come up with the data that shows that this student is good at this?
Right.
So when we talk about the intelligence level, they are social smart, they are word smart, they are they are picture smart. When we engage them through different activities, then we'll come to know that this child works well in this environment. So we can build on the
And that's exactly what I want to build up on as well. So imagine that you said that they're smart with talking, conversing, socially.
Right.
They're smart as well. I believe that that now kids really need to be street smart as well. And
That's
I'm
true.
dead honest about it. You really need to have that
That's
skill at your disposal, where you can actually kind of make sure that whenever you're dealing with somebody, you have that smartness over here. But having said that, ma'am, now this is an era of specialization. It's not, because if you're going to be a doctor earlier, you go to a doctor, even if it's your kidney, lungs, anything, one doctor will give you all the medicine. That's not how it is. The trends have changed.
Exactly.
Yeah, we talk about cricket. If you're a bowler, you really need to be a good bowler. With all-rounders, you cannot work in a test match or a one-day international. One-day international might be able to pull it off. But having
Right.
said that, I think that that the basic necessity of any kid is to be able to write, read, comprehend, and have this habit of learning more. So imagine that if we are to kind of figure out whether what is the interest of that particular child, and then let them be on their laptops and go figure out the World Wide Web themselves and give such assignments, I think we will kind of produce better specialized people at what they are happy with doing. Don't you think that that's how we really need to kind of progress? Because I don't know, because imagine that in my metric and ninth, there were theorems, and there was algebra, and then there was integration.
Right.
and you never used
And,
it.
and
you never used it.
Yeah.
and there was so much which was so irrelevant.
Yeah,
It
and
took
you will-
away our childhood.
And even now you will find yourself fail to figure out where to put it.
Yeah.
Where is
True.
the, like,
But
where
what
to
was
put
the
it.
use of it?
So here comes the content.
True.
Here comes the content. We need to update the content. If I give you an example of grade 3, like I was just going through some books, because whatever I am saying, there should be some data that supports some facts and figures that supports what I am saying. So I was looking into the details of the general knowledge book, that is Waqfiyat-e Amma now. Then I have some objections, some reservations when it comes to the language, medium of instruction, because just I'm a little bit, I'm going to touch the language part, and then we'll come
Why?
back.
So you don't like it in English? Or
Well,
you don't like
no,
it in
they
Urdu?
have switched and they have made it compulsory to take general knowledge in Urdu. Well, I love Urdu. I'm not against Urdu. I actually adore Urdu.
Yeah.
I love Urdu literature and everything. I love talking in Urdu. But the thing is, now as a child living in Islamabad, how he can take general knowledge in Urdu?
I think it's brilliant.
You are
It's a
pushing the
brilliant idea.
child back. You are pushing the child back. He is more comfortable, more conversant, more exposed to English language. Like, the things are really challenging. When he has to say loudspeaker, he has to look for the equivalent word in Urdu dictionary, and what he will come out with, it's ala mukabbar sot. What the hell? It's it's.
No, that's not how it is. Okay, so I have a disagreement. We can agree to disagree. That's
Yeah,
what-
exactly.
That's the beauty of education,
that's
right?
that's the
what they've
beauty
taught
of
us.
collaboration.
So imagine now, when I do shows for Urdu channels, I still think that I could have read it very well, while I was in school, and at times I actually miss those occasions. So I have to go back to those scripts which I've written by myself, pick up some good words, so that whenever I'm presenting in Urdu, I make sure that I'm presenting 100% correctly. I think having said that, because I do see there was this rising trend when even I was in school, that my class fellows started to fail in Urdu and Islamiyat. I mean, that really needs to be our core. I think Qatar just now, in the FIFA World Cup has set such a precedence for all of us to how to promote their religion. And I think in order to do that, we really need to kind of focus on our, national language. We are not focusing on it. And if we have a teacher sitting over here advocating for children that, reading or studying general knowledge in Urdu will be so difficult, or the term you use, what the hell, I certainly didn't like it, and there's a disagreement over here.
But
well,
certainly, Shahzad, don't you think that this is the time do we also update the English, Urdu, what do you call the lexicon of the Urdu, because for quite a long time, I think, since when did we produce the Iqbals and Ghalibs? That was a century ago, right? And we haven't produced such a great literary figure that we can compare it to the Iqbal or to the Ghalib. And that's because our Urdu language is not progressing as it should be, and it is not incorporating a lot of things that it should be, right? So what do you have to say on that?
I strongly agree with your disagreement. I strongly agree.
Thank you.
But the thing is, we cannot be successful, we cannot complete our journey when you are riding the two vehicles at the same time.
Okay.
That's true.
Be decisive, be clear, whether you want to go for Urdu or you want to go for English. And when we are talking about the language, I mean our own language, okay, why all of the orders are coming in English? Why the decisions from the court are coming in English? Why? What is the reason behind?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I have to interpret the data that is coming in English, then I should be trained to that. When I enter to FSC, right, the whole of the content is coming in English. When I am not prepared for that, when I am not trained to transmit my information into English, then it will be a trouble. It will
and
be
the
a trouble.
transition needs to be a little more simpler
So
for students out there, so
smoothly.
that they can pick up on it. I think you've said it, you've hit the nail on the head. But having said that, let's talk, we've spoken about the content. Let's talk about the assessment, the way we have been assessing children. आपकी position पहली है, आपकी बेटा आप क्लास में आखिरी आए, आप फेल हैं, आप पिछला साल फिर से रिपीट करेंगे.
And that's a very public result, right?
Everyone is always पप्पो का लड़का आपको फोन करके कह रहा है, शहजाद भाई पास हो गए, मुबारक हो आपको, please.
Yeah, when it comes to the assessment, what needs to be corrected, first of all, we need to correct our approaches towards assessment, how we look at the assessment.
True.
Assessment should be aimed at supporting learning, not judging the learning. What is the general concept about the assessment found here in the schools or whatever in the society? We are looking at the assessment with the judgment perspective. Even students are scared of the exams or the assessment, and the parents are also having a lot of pressure. They are sort of having certain fear when it comes to the assessment, because they don't have the confidence, that this assessment is aimed at supporting the learning.
True.
Where the teachers are looking at the areas of improvement, and they will be supporting the child to improve. So this is the first thing.
So your suggestions towards how do we need to restructure our education system, the curriculum, the assessment plans, reconstruction, how do we do that?
Well, it's not actually me. It's not actually me who should lead the process, or who am I actually? I'm not
Why
the
not?
authority. Well, one thing is that you just, first of all, the phase that we are going through is, as an educationist, what I am going to do is, I am just trying to raise the slogan with full power and energy that it's not the time to reform, it's the time to redesign. And when it comes to redesign, we have to collect the high minds, the capable minds, to sit together and to think and to execute the ideas. And we have to dig deep, we have to bring the problems, and then we have to resolve one and one. And one more thing, when it comes, it will be a complete switch or a shift or a change. And whenever we talk about the change is always confusing in the beginning, messy in the middle, but awesome at the end.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for saying that. And I think we also need to point out that there are three streams of education in Pakistan. There's separate for the elite schools, then there's one for the Urdu medium schools, and then there's also madrasa system. So we need to harmonize all of three and make sure that the students who are graduating from these particular three different systems have equal opportunities, and we do not have that. And certainly our state is also pontificating over that and doing its effort. And obviously when you're making an effort, there's a lot of requirement for the changes, there's a lot of requirement for the debates. debates on that. So with that end, we will thank you, Ms. Zarina, for coming here and for having this wonderful cross-pollination of ideas on education, and we will keep conversating about the education because that is a topic that will never go off,
and
right?
it certainly was wonderful to kind of talk about it, so from higher
you so
education
much.
coming down to primary and junior
Right.
level. But where Ms. Zarina said that, whenever we talk about change, it's messy in the beginning, troublesome in the middle, and then beautiful at the end. It felt like as if we were talking
Right.
about marriages, not education as well.
Right.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3.
Good
morning. Have a
morning.
great day.